So, Aaron, do more engines equal better performance?
Yeah.
I would say it depends.
Yeah. Well, it always depends, but I mean, why not say yeah?
Well, because you start getting into a lot of little details like, weight, horsepower, torque, Mercury versus Yamaha.
What about Suzuki?
You're not doing quads with Suzuki. This is in reference to that video we just posted of going from 3 to 4 outboards, because there were quite a few people that were asking why the 300s. They were like, just dogging on our 300Rs. So, well, honestly, the simple answer you could probably give, why did he go with the quad 300Rs?
Well, that video, we actually did that a while ago. That wasn't like we just did that yesterday, and that was all that was available.
Yeah.
Back when we did that actual project, the V10 wasn't out. No one even knew there was a V10.
Yep.
And you couldn't get L6s, and those were available. That's what he wanted. He could get them, so he got them, and we put them on there.
Mm-hmm. And even then, see, if you start going into like what he could have done, let's say everything was available, right?
Yep.
What would be your choice to put on that boat?
Well,
would you have kept the trips?
No, I would have went with quad V10s.
Okay. Also, let's back up to the time. V10s nobody even knew about V10s.
Okay.
So minus the V10 with everything else that's out.
So V10 doesn't exist. And
what would you put on that boat?
What are the choices?
Everything minus the V10.
Okay.
In stock.
I do the
400.
I did the
L6.
quad 300Rs.
You'd do quad 300Rs?
Yeah.
Okay. That's exactly what we did. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you go with Trip 400 L6s? It's the same power, isn't it?
The 350 supercharged? Trip 350 supercharged L6s?
No, Trip 400 L6s. Supercharged L6s.
Oh.
That would equal the same horsepower as quad 300Rs, wouldn't it? That's what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
No.
That's not the case.
No, I wouldn't do that at all because of the size of the boat. I mean, it's a massive boat. What does that 42 yellowfin weigh?
I have no idea what a 42 yellowfin weighs, but she is big. I mean, the forklift was struggling to pick that thing up.
For sure. I would say it's probably in the 22,000, 24,000 pound range, somewhere in there, low 20s.
Yeah, this leads the conversation down displacement, weight, power, all those ratios, and what the actual best configuration for this boat would be. I'll tell you right now, for anybody who commented, why not go with Trip 400s? That's probably the worst configuration that you could have done. 400 L6s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Trip 400 V10s is a whole different ballgame now.
Yeah. Way different.
Yeah. V10s are so new that, in the quick research I did, I couldn't find like any actual performance numbers because the V8, the Mercury V8 is really impressive. I talk about it a lot. Okay.
Spec-wise?
The L6 is my favorite engine.
Yeah.
But that's just because of the whole branch of everything, working on it, its reliability, all that stuff. But in terms of like performance, the Mercury V8 is impressive.
Yeah.
That 300R especially, because it makes, they're legally allowed to make like up to 10% more than the rated horsepower. And that one, I'm pretty sure it's published out there that it makes 316. It's probably around the 320 horsepower range.
Yeah.
So it's actually making more power than it's rated.
Well, hold on. Let's go back to the beginning of the question here. So, on why you would go with the trips versus the quads.
Let's take these 3 400 L6s, right? What does an L6 weigh? Well, I did some quick research, finding numbers and stuff. A 400R L6, let's go with that just because it's, let's keep it with the R's.
Supercharged engine.
Yes, but it weighs, I think the least it could weigh is 668 pounds. Now, in this setup...
That's a 20-inch shaft, though.
Exactly. In this setup, it would have, it was 225s and 230s.
Yep.
Yeah. So it would really be closer to 700 plus, and it'd be a lot of weight. Do the math since you're a mathematician over there. So the L6s, 3 of them at 700 pounds.
Oh, it's 2,100 pounds.
I can't do math.
Without a calculator?
No, I just want you to do something. Anyway. Anyway, so you've got 2,100 pounds in 3 L6s, and the 400Rs actually make less than 400 horsepower. They make 390 at
the prop?
X RPM at the prop. I forgot the exact RPM, but they make 390 peak RPM, peak horsepower, right?
Okay.
So it's less than what it's rated. So that means it's less than the quad 300Rs, being that they're higher. They're at 320. So that times 4 is 1,280 compared to the 1,170 that you'd get out of the Trip 400Rs. All right. And then the weight, that V8 weighs around 550.
Right.
Right. So 550 times 4 is 2,200, right? Compared to the L6 is 2,100.
Right.
So you're gaining 100 pounds, but you've got a whole extra engine with who knows how many more cylinders than these 3 L6s. You know what I mean? You've just got a whole lot more displacement. And then the price too. Them 300Rs, they're a pretty smacking deal. You know what I mean? 35 grand retail, like full retail, which I'm pretty sure when you're buying, like I didn't, look at the ticket or anything, but I'm pretty sure when you're buying quad sets and all this stuff, you get.
Yeah, you do get some rebates. Also, there's other rebates and stuff that are available. So like, certain seasons you can get a rebate for X engines.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can get a deal, squeezing out that many engines. So really it would be less than the 140 grand it would add up to.
Right.
Versus what a 400R, they're discontinued, so you can't even find the price on it. But
they were right around 35 grand.
Right around 35 also?
Yeah, they were somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay, so it'd be, 105,000. So you'd be saving. But let's be honest, once you're in this kind of category of boat and engine, that's kind of child's play money for you. 35 grand. You're like, you're telling me I can gain 3 miles an hour? Throw it on there, dude. Why not? But yeah, it's an interesting conversation to have, comparing all this stuff, because I just want to talk about how impressive that 300R is. It's just.
Well, let's get back to talking about why you want the quads over the trips, because ultimately the main thing that's the biggest problem in boating and why these engines are so impressive is because of the weight of the boat.
Right.
So when you're talking about bass boats or ski boats or pontoon boats or any other kind of pleasure boating, bow riders, stuff like that, the boats don't really get that heavy until you start going into, more of like the sport fish model of a boat, where now you're talking about these massive boats that are used to running diesels, where the diesel can push the weight of that boat.
Right.
So you're talking this yellowfin, we got let's say it's 24,000 pounds. 24,000 pounds, and you got that L6, which is making 400 horsepower, but it's making 400 horsepower because it's a supercharged engine, opposed to the 300R, which is making it, well, now even the V10, that's 400. What's the displacement of the V10 compared to that L6?
It's like double, more than double. It's 5.8 versus 2.6 liters.
Is the V10 a 5.8?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a 5.8. Yeah, that throwing the V10 into the conversation changes the whole thing, because I'm pretty sure
it's 5.7.
I'm pretty sure triple V10s, like somebody did say, triple V10s probably would outperform quad 300Rs.
Yeah, I probably would because of that 5.7. But So let's go with the 400. Let's just do the trips. So you're talking about the 5.3 versus like a 5.3 Yamaha 350 and the L6 2.6 liter 400 supercharged.
Yeah.
So if you
for
take
a boat of that size, that'd be the dumbest repower you could do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you were going to say
because of that weight.
The displacement of the L6 being so small.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, I guess you can replace displacement with a supercharger, but there really is no replacement for displacement when it comes to pushing weight.
Right.
Like top speed, I see that'd be interesting to know, because I know like comparing 300Rs and 400Rs, the 300Rs have a much better hole shot and all that, but a 400R still does have a higher top speed. Now, on a heavy boat like that, would that be the case?
I don't know. I mean,
would the L6 just be slower to get there?
No, I think it would be slower at the top end too, because with a boat, you're not like in a car, you're on wheels and you're just mainly, turning that wheel. And once you get the wheel turning, you got the momentum, the weight becomes momentum pushing you forward. In a boat, that weight is going backwards because it's in the water creating drag. So you are constantly forcefully driving, pushing that weight through the water. So even when you get to the top end, that displacement and those RPM still are going to outperform the smaller cylinder, because you're at the top end, you're still pushing. You don't have momentum like in a car where the weight is actually helping you. You've got it moving, and now it's just rolling, like going downhill basically. Where
it makes sense.
In the top end of the boat, you're doing 70 miles an hour, but that is still got 24,000 pounds doing, not 70, but let's say doing 50, 60. You got 60 miles an hour with 24,000 pounds still like being pushed. Across that
it's
drag.
Not, like if you were to let off the throttles, the boat would just
instantly
come to a stop. Whereas if you let off the throttle in a car, because of the momentum, the way that everything's set up, it'll just keep rolling. And really, you'll
gradually lose speed.
You don't need as much power to go faster. Right. I get that comparison. So that does make sense then. Them L6s, as much as I love that engine, it's just not built for
the weight,
a heavy boat like that. So that's probably why it had those 350 Yamaha dogs on there before.
Yep.
Got to throw in the Yamaha hate. No. But that's just because they're big engines. They've got displacement, and they'll push weight.
Yep.
But even that 350 Yamaha compared to the 300R Verado is not.
No, the quads still are going to outperform it, because if
it did.
Yeah.
So of course there's video proof that it did outperform it.
Yeah, it will. And it could even.
But the price, people are also talking about price, but like I said, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, the price doesn't really matter at that point in time. I mean, when people are throwing around $100,000, it's, negligible on what in their position and they consider, that's a whole different. It's a different ball game. But statistically speaking, and looking at all the factors, those 300s, even if you were to do, what was the other one doing the 400s? Obviously we covered that because it's a supercharged engine. You're making that horsepower, and the 300, which has 100 less horsepower, is still going to outperform even those 400s. So like even if you had, like a good comparison would be the quad 400s versus quad 300Rs. Now that would be a very equal comparison, because those 300Rs are potentially going to produce similar results as the 300. But when you start talking about that big weight, then it might, I don't know.
Well, because
I'm not sure which one would be better.
The 400R, see a number to throw out there is torque. So the 400R, the L6, being that it's smaller, it only makes, I think it was 324 foot-pounds of torque.
Okay. Is that at the prop or at the crank? Yeah, let's say it's at the prop. Let's say everything's at the prop.
Yeah. Versus, I think, I couldn't find the number on the 300R, but the regular 300 V8 makes 312 at a lower RPM too.
Yep.
So it's, peaking out quicker in terms of the torque, and it's only 12 pound-feet of a difference versus 100 horsepower. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or 100 horsepower. Really, it's a little less, as we know. But
right.
As far as that comparison, the quads, quad 300s and quad 400s, the quad 300s, I feel like they do better in almost every category.
I think so too.
Besides top speeds or top speed.
I mean, even at top speed, I think it's going to be very similar.
Well, horsepower is for the higher RPM range and for speed.
Well,
so
it is, but again, you factor in the drag weight factor, and so that 300R is actually producing, like you said earlier, they can go to like 10% of
within
publicized whatever it is.
Yeah.
So if that 300 is actually making like 325, 326 horsepower at the prop compared to that 400R L6, which is actually only making like 390 or something.
Yeah, 390.
390 at the prop.
Yeah.
So you're really only what, roughly 60 horsepower off?
Yeah.
So you're talking, but again, what is the 300 displacement?
4.6.
So it's a 4.6 versus a 2.6. And you've got 8 cylinders opposed to 6.
Yeah.
So you've got the horsepower there, but if you look at it mathematically on your, V8 L6, the V8s, quad V8s, you've got, 32 cylinders versus the quad L6s is 24 cylinders. It's almost like you're adding another engine.
Yeah.
That's going to take over pushing that weight. So once you get to that top speed, it's like almost having a fifth engine there to push the weight.
Comparatively.
Which comparatively, it's going to distribute the load.
Yeah.
Compared to those 400s.
So those quad 300s will be under less load the whole time than the quad 400s.
And at top end, at your very top end.
Yeah.
So because it is like horsepower, obviously, you do have more horsepower. So you are going to be doing 60 times 4 is 240. Yep. So you've got 240 more horsepower there. But what is that ultimately going to gain you? I mean,
and you also got a ton more weight.
And you do have a ton more weight. So now, because you're like almost 200 pounds an engine?
Almost, yeah. Yeah, it's like 150 pounds an engine.
So
extra. So times 4, 600.
So you got 600. So it's almost like you've got a whole nother engine.
Yeah, it's on
the opposite side.
See, when you start writing that out, like step by step, there, it's really becoming apparent how good those 300Rs really are, especially for the price. You know what I mean? So
the reason you'd want to have the 300s over that is also the fuel economy, because those 400Rs at wide open are also burning, I want to say, close to 40 gallons an hour.
Also, fun fact, the 400Rs, the 300Rs make peak power at 80 with 87 octane.
Right.
Whereas the 400Rs make peak power at 91. And I think it's safe to run at 89 octane.
Yep.
So you'd have to run a higher fuel grade to get
that horsepower,
your performance anyway, which is only 60 more horsepower than the 300R.
Yep.
See, a better comparison, because somebody did say that, like, that they'd never go to a quad setup, when there's, I forgot exactly how it was worded, but the 425s, Yamaha, if you were to do trip 425s versus quad 300Rs. The price is similar now. We're talking like 135 for the trip 425s.
Yep.
Versus 140 for the quad 300Rs. And then, but those 425s are heavy. They're even heavier than the quad 300Rs.
Yeah.
You'd be looking at 3,000 pounds.
Yep.
Compared to the 20, what did I say earlier? At 550 a motor, 2,200.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, you're looking at an extra 800 pounds for, they make so 1275 horse compared to the 326 times 4. What is that?
326 times
almost
4.
That's over 1,300. So you're making more power with the quad 400 or 300Rs. You're making more torque, obviously, because you've got that extra engine. It weighs less.
Yep.
It's not as loud. It doesn't consume as much fuel.
Well, they're going to consume really close to the same amount of fuel, actually. And now, those 425s, I don't know what you're going to be burning. I mean, the 350s were burning 100 gallons an hour with the trips.
Yeah, and
I know those 425s burn more.
Yeah.
Than
I've heard there's some thirsty.
Well, yeah,
there's some thirsty dogs. There's some
everything that's over 300-400 RPM horsepower is thirsty.
Right. But I mean, being that it's so big and
it's big, massive.
Even being direct injection, which is supposed to save your economy a bit, it still drinks a lot of fuel.
Yeah,
and
I don't know what is the fuel consumption in a wide open throttle of a 425.
I don't know. I've never looked at it. I've never even ridden a boat that had 425s on it.
Really?
Anything I know about 425s is just word of mouth, unfortunately. Because we do work on that 42 Pursuit that has the quads. And that would be... I just love to go on one ride on it because I want to hear what this is... Like, what this noise is about. Everybody's like, man, them 425s are just abysmally loud. Like, you can't even hear yourself think. Is how people describe it. If you try to go wide open out there,
wide open throttle is 37 gallons an hour, basically.
Because I think a lot of things that people are bringing up too is why would you do all that extra work to cover up the holes and to drill out the holes for quads? And I'd rather do that work and have the quad 300s than just switch over to 425s. The quad 300 seems like a better deal overall.
Yeah, I think it is a better deal. The
problem too in that video,
it's too heavy of a boat.
The problem too in that video, they weren't propped right. You know what I mean?
They weren't. Yeah, they weren't. No.
Yeah, they weren't propped right. What RPM were they making? Not near.
Like 58.
Yeah, when they're supposed to rev out to 64. Who knows when their peak power was? I think it was. I mean, if it revs out to 64, then its peak horsepower has got to be at least
64.
Are you sure?
Somewhere around there.
Some of them make it like a little under the.
Well, the rev limiter is going to be at 67. So.
Oh, those things are rev limited at 67?
Yeah, it's usually only So they're top, like your top RPM. Usually the rev limiter comes in like 300 RPM over your peak.
Because it's 58 to 64, right? So we were at the very bottom of the range.
Right.
And it's making that full horsepower at 58 to 64. That's a good range there.
Yeah. I mean, some rev limiters are different, depends on the model, but some are like 100, 200, 300. They're real close to being right over. So you probably couldn't get more than 65, 66 before you start losing.
Yeah.
Significantly.
Yeah. If those things had the right prop on them, if they were like propped properly, then everything would have just been better. It would have had even more speed. Probably. I mean, the whole shot was already.
Yeah,
a lot better.
Significantly better.
I think those 300Rs have spark transient technology, some crazy word that they use just to basically say that they have like a timing advance when doing a whole shot. to make it like even more torquey at the whole shot, because it really is. And all I've read and heard about the V10 is how much more torquey they are, you know, than the L6. That's a whole different conversation, V10 versus L6. I mean, performance-wise, the V10 will blow it out of the water
no matter what.
It's probably going to make more than the 400 horsepower it's rated at.
It's going to make more horsepower. It's going to consume less fuel.
The torque is going to be
way higher.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't even throw a rough estimate out there, but it's going to be way higher than 324 for sure.
Going back to that displacement conversation, like Yamaha, that's one thing that they do. Like, they're pretty consistent. Like, those are the two things that they're known for, is like, you know, their motto is reliability and no replacement for displacement. Like, all their outboards, for the most part, are right around, like, what is it, 0.7?
I think most of their outboards are at 0.7 liters per cylinder. So like
0.7 liters of displacement per cylinder across most of all theirs, because the 2.8 4-cylinder, that's
0.7.
0.7.
Yep. The 4.2.
The 4.2
divided by 6.
Yep. Divided by
about 0.7.
About 0.7. The 5.3.
No, that one's off.
That one's off?
Because the 5.6 is 0.7.
Okay.
The XTO.
So the XTO is 5.6, and that one is 7.
Yeah, they've got a pretty consistent. I think they've got it figured out. I think they know something about pushing weight. That 0.7 is the right number.
They just ain't got that weight down yet.
Yeah, they're always going to be heavy.
Yep, that's the thing is the weight. But on the Mercury is completely different because they're all across the board.
Yeah,
like think about that. Think about those numbers. So the three, let's do the 4.2 and the 2.6. So the 300 Verado being supercharged at 2.6 liters is making like 0.3 displacement per cylinder.
I don't know, something low.
Do 2.6 divided by, so you got 2.6 divided by 6. That thing's making 0.43 displacement per cylinder, whereas the 4.2 is making 7.7. So the weight that 342 can handle
it's a much bigger piston.
It is way more
engine. Yeah, it handles more weight.
It handles more weight, which is going to help you on your fuel economy. And the only thing it's not going to help you on is going to be your whole shot and your top end speed. Maybe
I'm just speaking out of ignorance here. I've never known Yamahas to be very fuel efficient though.
They're not the worst.
The worst.
They're pretty good.
Sure, but
I mean, once you start talking about, like I said earlier, 300, 400 horsepower, like you have to drink fuel to make that, no matter what it is. I mean,
well, I don't know about the other brands, but Mercury's got ARO.
Now that's a whole different thing because Suzuki has had that lean burn for a long time, and then now Mercury has ARO, which is that advanced range optimization.
Yeah,
where it's
lean burn pretty much.
It's basically lean burn.
Yeah.
You advance the timing. Like once you see everything level, you advance the timing and cut back on your fuel injected duration, so it puts in less fuel with the same speed, same horsepower, same everything, like same RPM. You're going to be cruising at. Now, Mercury's been doing that since when that V8 came out, 2017, 18.
Had to be around there.
So 5 years they've had that. Yamaha is the only company that doesn't have that. I mean, they're probably looking at it like you're leaning out the engine.
And as far as like them bigger engines go, Yamaha is the one that needs it because direct injection helps out the 425. But you know, and I could probably Google what it actually consumes, but it's definitely more than
the 425.
Yeah,
at wide open throttle consumes 37 gallons per hour.
37 gallons per hour.
Yep.
Versus
that L6 burns all that. I mean, I think it burns a little bit more than that with that supercharger. I'm not talking
about the L6. I'm sure the L6. I know the L6 is a.
No, the 4.2. I don't know what the 4.2 burns wide open.
I'm talking about the Mercury, the 300, the 300R. What does that burn?
Wide open throttle?
Well, wide open, I guess it's not going to do ARO, is it? Yeah.
So wide open, you're still burning 35 gallons an hour at least. So no matter what you do, when you start talking about top speed and like, you know, fuel burn only matters when you're cruising.
Sure. But in a boat like that anyway, a 42 yellowfin, you're not, I mean, maybe you are. Maybe you're just that rich. You don't give a crap. But you're not running out to your fishing spot, however far away, wide open throttle the whole time.
No, most people are cruising. And the seas determine how fast you can really go.
Exactly.
You know?
But yeah, with that ARO, cruising, you're going to be saving. I mean, didn't it save a good bit on the Yamahas, on the 350s?
Yeah.
At cruising speeds?
Yeah, at cruising speed, he was saving like 10 gallons an hour. With an extra engine.
There you go.
So, and if it gets propped right, you could probably hit 15 gallons per hour difference. With an extra engine, you're saving 15 gallons an hour in fuel. That's a pretty big number.
It was a shame, kind of that whole situation with that repower. Just like with
COVID and everything, you couldn't get anything.
Yeah, with COVID, like everything, all the parts for the rigging and everything was hard to get. The engines were hard to get, so even if he wanted anything else, $300 was all he was going to get. The time constraint, because he needed the boat by X date and this and that, and it's just, there was a lot of...
Yeah, well, that's neither here nor there, but yeah, because you couldn't, like, we had trouble getting, like, fuel filter brackets, like, everything. We had, like...
Tie bars.
Oh, yeah, the tie bars.
Oh, my God, that was like the last thing we needed. We were like, come on, this whole thing's done. We need tie bars. He ended up picking them up somewhere, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he got them from Offshore Performance.
Yeah, he had to go up.
They happened to have them,
Yeah, he had to go up north to go pick them up because she couldn't get them. And also the fact that we were in the Keys probably didn't help. We're the last people to get stuff anyway.
Yeah. Another
question somebody had was about the mounting height. Is our stout? He asked, how do we normally get the mounting height on that? Because I don't think we touched that.
Well, normally we just look at it. I mean, normally we eyeball it, but in that instance, he talked with Yellowfin, and Yellowfin told them, Yellowfin told us where to put them. Yellowfin said you should put them here, here, and here. Although I'm not 100% on that. I think that they were a little low.
Well, at least the middle ones.
Yeah,
the outside ones looked okay.
Yeah, the outside were good, but the two middle ones I think they were low. Because when I'm looking at it, I mean, we were looking at it like they look low. I mean,
yeah,
but that's where they wanted them. That's where they told us to mount them. But at the same time, that boat has that dip out in the middle.
Exactly.
So I don't know, because you could get that yellowfin. That 42 would either come with quads or trips. So I don't know if the quads had that cutout. So if they didn't have that cutout, then where they told us to mount them, they probably weren't factoring in. It was
probably 2 inches lower than it because of that.
Because of the dip.
Cutout, yeah.
Yep.
But why would it be like that anyway? Well,
because for trips, the
one has to sit even lower.
The one has to sit even lower because it's going all the way down the middle of the keel. Whereas on the quads, they're 13 inches outside of the keel. Yeah. And I don't know what the dead rise is back there. Maybe 24. I don't know. I mean, what is the dead rise? Who knows?
Couldn't tell you.
It's gonna be a pretty
Yeah. See, that's looking back on it. That's probably it. That dip. The quads. I mean, I've never seen wasn't there there was a 42 yellowfin with quad 300s, like just regular V8s there, wasn't there?
Yeah, but remember, that boat was a 2000.
It was a lot newer. Yeah,
12, or was it an 08?
You talking about the one that we did 300Rs on? Yeah, that one was older. And the one that I just brought up was a lot newer. So I guess, maybe the transom could have changed over those years anyway. But I don't think I saw
a cutout. I don't think there is. On the quads, I don't think there's a cutout.
I've replaced a harness on that boat, and I know that I don't think there was a... All the engines were even high.
Straight across.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was no cutout. But it was what it was. I mean, those engines were on there. I mean, we didn't get those engines fully bolted on until what was it, like 8 o'clock on a Saturday?
Yeah, it was bad. No, yeah. It was like a Saturday.
It was like 8 p.m. on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and he rolled out on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Like he left. Like
yeah, we came back Sunday morning to put the tie bars on because he showed up in the morning with the tie bars.
Yep.
And then sea trial it.
Yep.
Just to make sure everything was okay.
He was doing a fishing tournament.
Yeah, but just to make sure that he was okay for the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I think it ended up being that he was going to have to take it, to some other marina anyway, back where he's from to get it propped and do all that stuff.
Well, he was doing something else, I think. He was having other stuff done to the boat.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I guess to answer that question, we
look at it.
Yeah, look at it or get it from the manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, but yeah, like especially on smaller repowers, like all the little ones I ever did with the 150 Mercs. Just look at it, put a little, what's it called? Straight edge.
Straight edge, yeah.
Blanking. Put a straight edge under there, see where it's at.
Yep.
Simple like that. But
yeah, on the main channel, we've got a video about mounting an outboard height. And basically you put that straight edge on there because the water coming off the bottom of the hull, as soon as it leaves the bottom of the hull, it goes up. Mm-hmm. And you want that water to come up on the lower unit, but not over your anti-ventilation plate. So you want that water to come up and kind of like splash off the anti-ventilation plate and keep your water pickups underwater. Mm-hmm. So you don't, suck air and overheat your engine.
Yeah.
But if the engines are too low...
Continue. I was just going to say I've always heard to keep it like an inch or two above the bottom of the boat. Yeah. But then that starts getting complicated with Euro transoms and
brackets
and all that brackets because the further back you go, the higher up you go. But continue. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say the anti-ventilation plate, if you've got it too low and that plate goes under the water, it, sucks the back of the boat down. I was going to have you explain that, like what happens with that. So if you got your anti-ventilation plate and the water comes off the back of the boat and goes over the top of that, it basically creates a,
Yeah, it's pushing down on
it. It sucks it down. So like that, it becomes it's not a hydrofoil. It's a, it's a planing thing, so the water comes off the boat, goes over that plate, any little trim is going to drive, the plate's going to try and dig. So you're sucking the back of the boat down. You're going to start porpoising. You're going to lose a ton of speed.
In this case, too, in that boat, those center engines were just spitting out a lot of water.
Yeah, they were definitely buried.
Yeah, in between the engines. It looked like it was spitting out a lot. Mm-hmm. So I do think it could have performed a lot better. And I do think it is performing a lot better right now. It's been
they weren't so low where you couldn't trim it out.
No, yeah. They were only like one hole down, like one or two holes too low. Probably could have come up 2 holes.
Yeah, probably.
But another question on that video too, asking about the center line. So I guess he says that you didn't explain this, like how you found the center line. But
did we?
I don't remember. You did the voiceover. Did you explain how to find it? I don't
know if I explained it.
The way I've always heard it, you take a string with a marker attached to the end of it, and then you have this string pulled out to like just over the visual middle line of the boat, and then you hold it at a couple points, on the running surface, because it's always better to have the engine be straight with the running surface. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like rather than visually appealing to look at, because if your running surface is like that, and like your boats, over the years, some boats will twist, kind of like that bracket boat, but they'll like twist, and if you just line it up to be level with the cap of the boat, then it could be off on the running surface.
The hull, like you said, the running surface is your hull, and that, like over time, it does nothing on a boat is straight. Like it's it's all built out of a mold. It's all glass, so and when you're looking at the back of the boat, the back of the boat, however you want to, I can't really make a shape that makes the back of the boat, but like it's always like, this side might be a little higher than this side might be lower than this side, like where this art might be a little lower, higher. They're never perfectly straight. but you want to make sure that where the engine is on the keel and all that is like straight. Otherwise, it'll drag this way or that way.
Yeah.
And so I was always taught the way I was taught. I mean, and that's not saying that that's the best way. There might be a better way, you know, because I was always taught really you can't go, you know, from this corner to this corner and put it a mark in the middle, and from this corner and put a mark in the middle and call that your center line. Because if you do that, and let's say that this side of the hull and this side of the hull are not identical, maybe this one's a half inch bigger. So now this one's like this. So now your engine, if you measured from the two sides to the middle, it could be off one way or the other, half inch, quarter inch, an inch. I mean, you could have, so that I was always taught not to do that because of that. And you go from the strakes and the corners to the middle, and then once you get all your arcs all the way,
and the arcs don't have to be a specific size. You just, I mean, you could literally make a giant half circle if you want, and just wherever the two sides intersect on multiple different points, you draw a line right through that. And that's the center line.
You kind of center it, so you kind of center off the keel, and then all those, and you kind of like average them off, and that's your center line.
Which it worked out. I mean, all those engines came out.
Perfectly
straight. I mean, the thing, you know, other than the small problems being propped and whatever, it rode great. It was, you know, as far as drilling and mounting those engines, that all turned out perfect. So if you know, if people have another way of doing it, then by all means,
let me know.
keep doing it your way, or let us know. But
I mean,
I guess the best way to do it is just whatever way works. You know, if it works, it came out straight, then your method's good to go.
That was the way I was taught how to do it. So, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, and cause I think somebody else said it was like the hardest way to find the center line.
Yeah.
The way you did it, I don't know. Maybe it is, but
maybe we should go look at that guy's videos.
Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
No, but yeah, I mean, it's always funny. Someone will make a comment like that, but yet then they won't tell.
They won't elaborate.
They want to like, what's the best way? Then
link me a video.
I mean, like, tell me what's the better way, bro. Like, you know, because you got all these different people. Everybody's reading the comments, so everybody reading the comments, like they're willing to throw out, you know, something like that, but yet they don't throw out the better way.
Yeah, and it's like now you've got all these people going, okay, well, if what I just watched is wrong, then where do I find what's right?
Yeah,
you know, like is everything I know a lie? I mean, I don't know.
No, I mean, because if there is a better way, I'd love to know. Because I mean, if we could be better, then that's only a benefit for everybody.
Throw it out there. Yeah, so we can make better. We can make better content that won't.
Well, if I could be a better mechanic, then by all means.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we do all this work. We go to school. We do all this stuff. Like, we do all this research, and because we want to be better mechanics. So it's always just nice for people not to give us information that somehow they know that we don't know, and they don't want to tell anybody.
Keep holding on to your secrets, man. That's all good. But also, more questions on this repower. This one was good because a lot of people had questions. Lucas and Austin Hall were both slightly confused on how you get the throttle situation to work on quads. So Lucas, he said, I'm a noob and I don't know any way to shift quads other than an 8 handle Lavorsi setup. Right. And really, you're right. We didn't really show a whole lot of. You just did the quick montage of the rigging and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's all digital nowadays. You know what I mean? You just take harnesses from the engines up, and then they all meet at the harness that's up, up front. The center engines basically just shadow. I mean, it's exactly what they call it, shadow mode. The outer engines. So your two levers are basically telling the outside engines directly what to do, and the center just shadow what those do.
Yep.
In that case, and something like that. It's really, really kind of that simple. But
so like on a trip situation, They don't, like if you split the handles where one's in reverse, one's in forward, your middle engine just doesn't do anything.
Right. Yep. See, that is something I didn't learn until repowering a 39 Contender with trips on it. And it was just like a fun fact. I don't remember how I brought it up, but he was like, yeah, that center engine shouldn't be doing anything when you split the handle. I'm like, really? It's not going to just act like the starboard engine? And he's like, nope, because then it just, I don't know, just the way it would
Well, yeah,
throw
now
off
you got, throw it off because now you got 2 props.
Yeah. Versus one on the other side.
So if you're trying to turn the
faster
boat
one way than the other.
Exactly.
Yeah, it would. So it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, and then on a quad, obviously they just
2 and 2.
Yeah, quads. It's actually really nice. It's enjoyable to dock a quad boat. Like, you know, when I started at the marina, a little embarrassing. I'd never driven a boat. I'd never docked a boat. I'd never done. You know, I was mechanically inclined. I wasn't boating inclined, and
right.
So then I had to learn. But the first boat I drove was a 38 Fountain. That one had trips, I think. Yeah, that one had trips. But even it's the same thing, you know, trips, quads, twins. When you're able to just to turn, it's kind of the nicest thing. You feel like such a G. You're like, boom, done, quick. Whereas a single engine boat, you're cranking one way and crank the other way and
just trying to get it in there.
Yeah, and you got to be aggressive with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You got to give it more throttle because you got to get the butt end to kick out, and
or to pull in, or
whatever the case. It's just single engine boats are not fun to dock.
Yeah. See, and you never even got to experience like inboard boats either, where you're using a rudder, which is completely different because you can't see it. Outboards are way easier because you can look back and you see where the engine's at. Yeah. Whereas with inboard,
I've seen don't some of them have a little gauge?
A lot of them have a rudder reference that tell you where the rudder is, but there's a lot that thing has not worked for a long time.
Yeah. No, good thing
so you kind of like basically what you do is you just go all the way to one side, and then you count how many turns to get back to the other side. So then you can your middle.
So you always have to.
Well, no.
Have numbers in your head.
Every boat's different. I mean, sort of. So if you go all the way to one side, and if you're
like, okay, that was 2.5.
Right, so if you're 5 turns lock to lock is 5 turns, then 2.5's the middle.
Right.
So before you start anything, just kind of knowing if you're driving straight down the canal, then you're in the middle. So if you turn one turn to the right, then your rudder's only half turn. So it's kind of...
Yeah, I'm glad I've never had the pleasure of driving one of those. I'd just rather not. Inboard's not really my thing. I mean, just also because I've always been told that I'm too big to get into an engine that I'm too big to get into an engine bay anyway. So you know what? I'll just take people's word for it, and I won't even attempt it because I know that I'm too big to get into most bilges anyway. So
not so much anymore.
Not anymore, but an inboard boat trying to squeeze on the side of an engine to get
it. Depends. I mean, a lot of the stern drives, yeah. I mean, true inboards, the engine's in the middle of the boat. Like if you got a straight shaft, the engine's like, it's not in the back and like a thing. Most of them in the middle of the boat, you just pull up a hatch and the engine's just sitting there in the middle of the boat.
Really?
Yep.
And it's like, it's got at least a foot of access on each side to get
let's
get
not
to the
get
manifold stuck. Well,
I mean, there's enough. I mean,
you have to undress the entire top part of the engine to get to any lower components.
Most of them you just take one cover off, just boom, fold the thing back, and then it's all right there, and you got 360-degree access, and it's not as bad. Like stern drives, or some of them like V drives, where the stuff's in the back. Like now that's a whole different story.
Yeah, what's interesting is like a big old Viking or something. Like I've been into the engine bays on. I forgot what we got on. Was it a 72?
No, that was a 92.
No.
Yeah.
Not the one that we went into the engine room.
Are you sure? Was it 72?
Well, if it was a 92, I'll be very disappointed because I was hoping it wasn't the biggest one because it was literally like an inch or two too short for... I was sitting there like this. Like standing fully straight up, but like that. I would hate to have to work on one of those things if I had to either keep finding a place to sit down, keep moving a chair, or just crouch over.
Yeah, but I mean, it is pretty wide open in that. I mean, your toolbox, they got toolboxes mounted in the back. Like,
it's the coolest thing ever, but I'd like to stand straight up.
Yeah.
No? Maybe like, get a little stretch in, you know what I mean? No, I've got to sit there like walking around the engine like hunchback of Notre Dame looking.
Yeah.
But no, inboards, no for me. I stick to fuera borde. Simple, man. Yeah, next question. We've got Mr. James Schultz. This is a twofer because he's got a question here about, so he's got a boat with a single engine. He's repowering from a 200 to a 250, and he was wanting to know how the running surface, I think, I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but how it'll affect it with just 50 more horsepower. Like, how would the speed be affected? Is it going to be minimal? Is it going to...
your speed's definitely going to increase.
By like, how much would you say?
What kind of boat?
Couldn't tell you. I don't know if he...
Yeah, then I couldn't tell you because it's definitely going to increase a couple mile an hour. You're going to have to buy a new prop because the prop's not going to work. He
said, does whole design affect the miles per hour in a single engine application moving from 200 to 250, and is the speed that you would gain minimal? He doesn't say what boat he has.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a big difference. No matter what you do, it's going to be a big difference because 200 and a 250 are two different. That most of the 200s, unless you're talking about a Mercury V6 200, are L4s. So you got a 4-cylinder versus a V8.
Yeah.
Or a V6 versus a V8. So that 250, you're adding 4 more cylinders of power there, opposed to that inline 4. So depending on the boat and the application, you could see significantly more. But the more, judging on the question, something that you might see a bigger factor for you is that the weight. So when you load that boat up, if you got an inline 4 200 and you've got that V6 250 or V8 or V6, whichever brand is on there we're talking about, you load that boat up with 4 of your buddies, a cooler, all your gear, fishing equipment, and you add another 1,000, 2,000 pounds to the boat, the 200 is going to be struggling to keep you going.
Yeah.
Whereas the V6 or the V8 is going to comfortably let you cruise around, where you're going to consume a lot more fuel with that 200 than the 250.
Yeah, I guess it would be nice to know what he's coming from, because what he's going to is actually the next question is, what would we choose between a 250 Suzuki or 250 Honda?
I go
Suzuki. I'm going to just say straight up Suzuki, really fast, because
where is he at?
He doesn't say that either.
Yeah, because that's the biggest factor right there. Like, if you're in Washington,
regardless, if you're in Washington, if it's freshwater, I mean, you know what? Fine. I guess if it's freshwater, it doesn't really matter. Just go with the cheaper one. They're both reliable.
They're both reliable. They're both all right.
In the saltwater, they both corrode, but Hondas corrode worse.
Yep.
Like, factually, just with every Honda I've ever seen, bolts, the heads are gone, just rusted off. Suzuki's less, but still
they still corrode quite a bit.
Still apparent. Now, like I said, if you're in saltwater, Suzuki all day. Freshwater, go with the cheaper one. I don't know which one's cheaper, but I know Suzuki's
what's close to you.
Popular for
like you got a dealer or somewhere where you can get stuff. Like,
I assume he's choosing between the 250 Suzuki and Honda because those are his two best options
dealer-wise,
in terms of he's not going with a Mercury or Yamaha, because honestly, why wouldn't? Well, I guess price. I wouldn't go with Mercury or Yamaha, but but I don't know.
As long as you can go somewhere and get parts for it, people don't factor that in. Like,
Suzuki,
they buy an engine, and yet if they got a problem with it, they're 4 hours away from somewhere that can, you know, like get a spark plug or a whatever, you know.
Suzukis are also kind of underrated in the power, like in the size, I guess, department. Suzukis are big. Like
they are big.
Like the 350, their 350 V6 has a higher displacement per cylinder than
anybody.
Not anybody. Yeah.
Anybody, dude.
Yeah, it's a giant. It's a big old fat V6. That'll push some weight, but the 250, I don't know much about.
Well, how much was that? That 350. That 350 was like
31.5. You're talking about price?
No, the size of the piston, the displacement.
It was big.
Because I think they are very underrated because the weight wise, they're comparable with the weight wise to Yamaha. I mean, Mercury's got everybody beat weight wise. Like they drop, you know, they done trimmed up hundreds of pounds across the board. Outside of the 600 V12, which is 1,300 pounds.
Yeah.
But what's that V10 weigh?
700. It weighs around what an L6 weighs.
So
that's why it's going to just...
Well, and then how much does the 342 weigh? Yamaha.
That weighs 570 pounds.
570?
560, 570. But I think that's for the smallest one, so it probably...
It's also the V6 that's not... They don't have a 350. Because Suzuki's 350... is very similar to like the Mercury V10, but because if you jump up to that 5.3 liter, which they don't make that engine anymore, you know, that thing was like 900 some pounds.
Oh yeah, she was heavy,
big old heavy.
That's Yamaha makes some heavy motors, dude. I don't know what to say. I've been saying it for a while. It's just.
So I think Suzuki is a little. I think you're right. They are a little underrated in comparison to their, you know.
Now I'm also a terrible person to ask anything Honda, just because.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of those.
You know
down
what?
here.
And I probably should. I probably should give Honda more credit. I'm probably gonna do more research on Honda because I should stop being a Honda hater. I've just seen too many. I've had too many bad experiences with rusted bolts on a Honda that I can't forgive.
Well, they, like you said, down in, like if you're in the middle of Washington or New York or any of these northern places with that cold salt water, they run them all over the place up there. But down here, they just don't. They can't handle the climate.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it is what it is. I mean,
so which is surprising because if you look at Honda as a company altogether, I mean, like. They don't make a bad product. Like they're all, you know, their generators, their lawnmowers, their equipment, the Hondas like cars.
I would consider Honda probably the best engine maker. Ever. Yeah. Generally, like Hondas make some crazy icons. The K24, you know, that inline four that was in the S2000 and just the S2000 in a bunch of cars, but it had like the record for a while for most horsepower per liter, you know, and it was just, or per cylinder or something. It was like Honda makes crazy impressive engines, but
for whatever reason,
they just don't put that same effort, I guess, into marine. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know if it's not an effort thing, but I'm sure if they really wanted to, they could have figured out the corrosion issue. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's the only downside to them.
Yeah, and then you get into VTEC. Because I've heard both sides of the coin where VTEC is like, you know, it's supposed to be X amount better because you get more performance, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, do you really want VTEC in a boat where you're going to be riding out at wide open anyway all the time? And, you know, VTEC's always going to be on. You're always going to be consuming more fuel. And it's like...
Well, and it gets back into that discussion of the weight and the drag and... That technology is great in a car, because you got momentum, but it doesn't transfer over to the water because of the drag factor.
And maybe that's why it does so good in smaller boats, is because it's not a lot of weight that it's got to push, and it probably just you know. And in the freshwater, there's no corrosion. I'm sure Hondas are great, but for what we see,
so what have they got as far as displacement on? Like, I think the biggest engine Honda makes is like a 250. I don't think they make anything over a 250.
Yeah, I think it's just the 250.
What's the displacement on that 250?
I don't know. I think it's car engine. It's a 3.6 liter or 3.58 liter.
So 3.6 liter.
Yeah. Which.
And Mercury's got the 4.6.
Yeah, but what's Mercury's V6?
4.3.
So it's a bigger V6.
No. Is it 4.3 or 3.4?
Probably 3.4.
Yeah.
Mercury does make smaller.
Yeah, I want to say the V6 is 3.4.
Yeah, so 3.4 liters compared to the Honda's
3.6.
3.6, just about.
So it's similar. I mean, it's very similar, but they're stretching it up to the 250 because, like Mercury, they stopped that V6 at 225.
Yeah, which the V6 is also a crazy impressive engine for Mercury. Like those little 225s in the right application, they're a great engine, you know. But
well, see, it's kind of like the Suzuki and the 140 though. So that 140 is kind of the same conversation as the 250 200 because the 140 it's super light compared to like Mercury and Yamaha. Their 150, we're only talking 10 horsepower, but those are significantly more in weight wise, aren't they?
A Yamaha?
Yeah, like a Yamaha and a Mercury 150 compared to the Suzuki 140, weight wise, it's an astronomical number.
Yeah, the 140 Suzuki is like 410 pounds versus the 150 Suzuki is I think they have it listed at 522.
Yeah, so
versus I don't know the Yamaha and the Yamaha 150 if it's the same weight as the 200.
Well, they make two, so there's the DEC and the regular. So the 2.7 and the 2.8.
But that's 0.1 liters of difference.
Well,
versus 0.8 in the Suzuki sense.
I know, but the weight wise on that is different because the one DEC versus the mechanical.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be as substantial as like 100 pounds.
I'm not sure not sure.
Yeah, but I know those, at least the 2.8 liter Yamaha 200 is heavy. Like as heavy as an L6 Verado or something, or a V8. No, yeah, it's as heavy as a V8 Mercury. So around 550 pounds or something. 520 pounds. It's around there. It's a heavy engine.
It's just a little over 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Compared to the 140 Suzuki, which is
410 pounds. So it's 112 pounds lighter than the next step up from Suzuki.
Now, what's Mercury's 150 weigh?
I don't know. The 150 couldn't tell you.
It's very similar to. It's like 500 some pounds.
Probably similar to the Yamaha.
Yeah, I think they're both right in that 500 some pounds. Where that's kind of the thing with that Suzuki. It almost plays into the same conversation that we're having with the 200 versus the 250. Is your ability to use your boat. Because people want to say, oh, it's only 50 horsepower. Well, it may only be 50 horsepower, but it's a whole different engine, like ability-wise. Yeah. And people don't think that, the boat performs like this with one person and half a tank of fuel. But when you fill up your water tank, fill up the fuel tank, you add the cooler, and you and your four buddies that all weigh 250, 300 pounds a pop, all climb on that boat.
Jack boys, apparently. Corn-fed boys. Heck yeah.
I mean, that now that little 200, you're barely getting on plane, and that thing is maxed out. Like you have got it pinned, and you're doing 15 miles an hour plowing through the water. Whereas if you put the V8, V6, 250 on there, you're going to be and rolling.
I think it's just a V8. That's a 250.
For the Mercury. But, he's only got Suzuki or Honda, so they're V6s. But still, that V6 is going to well outperform that. Now, if you only weigh 150 pounds and, the people you hang out, the way you use the boat isn't going to be affected like that, then, it might not matter as much. That was our timer going off. But it might not matter as much. But again, we don't know your boat, the application, how you're going to use it, where you're located at. Because if you're, like you said earlier, Honda or Suzuki, if you're up north, whichever one's cheaper.
Yeah. As far as that question, Honda versus Suzuki, in the freshwater, cheapest one. See, but I don't know, because even I think Suzuki might be easier to work on, right? Like, I don't know about Suzuki's programs, but I think they're starting to catch up with all the DEC and
they're fly-by-wires
and all their computer programs and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas like a Honda, I think they still use Dr. H. Is that what it's called? I remember very briefly when I was in school learning about Hondas and like it just felt
dated,
old. Yeah, it felt dated. You know what I mean? Like it felt like my grandpa made the software for their diagnostics, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it because of how old it was. It was probably simpler, but I just, it scared me. It's like the exact opposite. Like, my grandpa would look at a smartphone and be like, oh my God, what do I do here? Like, how do I call somebody? Whereas I'm looking at that going, geez, I mean, where's the clarity? What am I looking at?
Yeah. 8-bit.
Yeah. But personally, I'm going with Suzuki, freshwater or saltwater. And then the speed difference, I'm not sure about the speed, but you'll definitely have a overall performance.
Mm-hmm. Overall performance is definitely
like the 250 will.
Yeah, I'm always trying to overpower a boat though. For me, I'd rather have more power than I need and have it if I needed it than not have enough power and need it.
See, what's the problem? Like how much trouble can you get into putting more horsepower on the boat than what it's rated for? Like they've got the sticker. Max.
I mean, you can get in big trouble.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Would you get in trouble just getting pulled over by the Coast Guard, or would you get in trouble if something were to happen because of this?
I think you could probably get in trouble if you got pulled over and they, wanted to mess with. I mean, that's a very uncommon thing. Mostly that comes into play when people get hurt. Someone's, overpowers a boat and then it's doing, someone's out there doing 60, 70 miles an hour on the water, hits a tree or a light post or a bridge or something and then kills somebody, then that's when it becomes...
So really, it's probably a speed and safety argument more than it is a what the boat can handle argument. Because if we're being honest, a weight rating is probably more accurate. Like, don't put more than X amount of weight on your transom.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because really, that's like what I was saying. You could either get a 200 Yamaha or you can get a 300R V8 Mercury. They weigh
identical,
the same. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, would I be hurting the boat putting this 300 Yamaha? No. But you'd be endangering your fellow citizens.
Well, also, can the transom handle it too? Like a lot of the ones that we've done, like, we beef up the transom and make it stronger to handle that horsepower. But
you're right.
Some of these,
I didn't factor in thrust. Like, could the transom hold? Yeah, I didn't think of that. So you got me there.
You could rip a transom off.
You got me there because if you just went boom and just hammered down that 300, you'd probably rip a transom off some crappy little boat. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Those things are crazy.
All right. Well, I know we got a lot more questions. You had a lot more that you were going to cover, but I think we'll wrap this one up and then
time here.
We'll save a lot of that for next week. If anybody wants to have a topic for us to discuss, drop it in the comments below and we'll see what we can do to get it covered. If we don't answer it, then...
Yeah, hopefully we answer it cohesively. I know we like to ramble.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a podcast. That's what makes it fun. It's like...
conversation. We're both learning here. Everybody's learning.
Yeah.
Well, all right. See you guys next week.
Okay, see ya.